This year in November, Americans will vote who's going to be the next US president. And in this video, I'd like to talk about how different are their positions, their political positions. I'm going to contrast them. I'm going to focus on the differences in their positions. First of all, I'm going to start with a little look at the parties that both of them represent, and then I'll go into detail on those differences. So we have Joe Biden on the one hand and Donald Trump on the other hand, of course. Let's start with the parties that they belong to and are associated with. In the US, of course, we have a two-party system. Only the Democrats that Biden is the candidate for, and the Republicans where Trump is the candidate. And we have these two-party systems because of the way the political system works. So unlike in other countries like Germany, for example, we have a representative system where even smaller parties will be represented and people vote for smaller parties. We don't have that in the US, which is why we only have two parties. These two parties, if we compare them to Germany, can not really be compared to any two big parties we have, because the political system is so different, because the political opinions are so different. You cannot really contrast it, but left and right is something that you can roughly work with, where the Democrats are more on the left and the Republicans more on the right. So we have these two distinct political positions. And first of all, we have the Democratic position, which is often also called progressive or liberal, depending on where and what context. Very broadly speaking, we have support for minorities, ethnic minorities, minorities in terms of sexual orientation, anything. We have a support of immigration and to help people that come, asylum seekers, etc. Democrats tend to be more against guns, so make gun ownership more difficult. They tend to be for the environment, so want to fight climate change. They tend to want a strong state, so a state that supports people and helps people that are in need. And they do better in cities. So in cities, more people vote for Democrats, roughly speaking, and in rural areas, it's more Republican. So the contrast is, of course, the Republican Party, and they can also be called conservative, which basically means they want to conserve, hence the name, old values. They are more or less against immigration, or want to limit the amount of immigration and especially stop illegal immigration. They don't want to actively so much support minorities. They say everybody should be treated the same, of course, but they don't want to make a big point out of supporting minorities. Roughly speaking, they support gun rights, so they want people to have access to guns as one of the basic American rights. They are pro-business, so it's important to them that businesses can succeed and make people rich. And they want the state not to interfere too much in people's daily lives, and also not to help them too much, because other people, of course, would need to pay for this help. And so they say this should be, the state should step back as much as possible. And as I said before, they have more support, roughly speaking, in rural areas, so not that many people live. But of course, there are tons of these areas in the US, so which makes it a lot of people in the end. Now, one of their differences is the view on immigration, as I have said before, and I go into some more detail here. Biden basically wants a more humane approach, so that means that people who are in need should be helped. If somebody is looking for asylum, they should be given it if they have a right for it. And the problem is that this has caused lots of immigration of the illegal kind at the border, especially the border to Mexico. Not only Mexicans, but many people from all over the world basically immigrating illegally. That in turn has then changed the Democratic position, also Biden's position, who now wants to restrict access more and make the shut the border closer, so that that fewer people can cross the border illegally. And the Democratic Party has introduced a new bill, which with like a law used to stop immigration or to curtail it a little bit. And Trump doesn't accept this bill. It's basically saying it's not enough, but some people suspect he wants chaos at the border for the moment because it's better for him for the vote in November. And he has often said things like we should seal the border and that he will carry out the largest deportation operation in US history, so deporting illegal citizens who are living in America and often have lived there for a number of years. And he wants to end the birthright citizenship. That means when you're born in the US, no matter whether illegal or legal, you automatically have US citizenship, and he wants to stop that. Also, he wants to fight Mexican drug cartels, and often makes very clear how crime comes across the southern border. They also differ very much in their position towards Ukraine. Biden has often or repeatedly told the Congress that they should pass bills to send military aid and financial support to Ukraine to help it fend off Russia. And he warns that if Russia succeeds with this, getting more territory, then, for example, China will also think it can get away with that, attacking a smaller country, maybe. Trump says that if he's in office, he would end the war within one day. Many people have interpreted this as he would basically call Putin and say, will you accept this kind of territory, and then ask Ukraine to accept this loss of territory. This seems to be transplants on that. He doesn't want to keep on financing, helping Ukraine so much. He criticizes NATO allies, so the North American Treaty Organization, which Germany is also part of, and says that they are not spending enough on military aid, which is true if you look at the target of 2% that many countries have not, 2% of the GDP that many countries don't reach. Also, of course, they have different positions on taxes, so the money you pay to the state. And Biden wants to raise corporate income tax. This is the tax that, broadly speaking, like a company will pay on the profits that they have, on the income that they have. And he wants to raise it to 28%, bringing it to closer to 35%, which it was before Trump came into office. He wants to stop multinational companies avoiding paying taxes by some loopholes that they find. And he wants to have higher taxes for the richest Americans. On the other hand, Trump wants to continue with the tax cuts that have been implemented. So there are a number of, or have been a number of tax cuts that would stop at some point, but he wants them to continue. And he wants to keep the corporate income tax rate, which we talked about before, at 21%. So he doesn't want to raise this kind of income tax. And he wants a universal tariff on all imports. That means that any country sends anything they want to sell to the US, there will be a 10% tariff on this. In the end, that is a tax, of course, that consumers have to pay, but of course it's not good for the countries wanting to sell that. And a 60% tariff on some imports from China, so that's of course incredibly high. Their position on gun laws is also very different. And Biden has said that, or has worked on gun safety legislation, so more background checks for gun buyers and other kinds of protection. And he has banned the manufacture of ghost and sale of ghost guns. Ghost guns means basically guns that, like, you can at your home put together of different parts that you can buy somewhere. And he has told Congress that he wants to have a ban on assault weapons. So that means basically weapons, guns that are made to attack people, often semi-automatic or automatic guns. Trump, on the other hand, when he was in office, he weakened gun laws, but he has banned so-called bump stocks. This is sort of something you can insert into your semi-automatic rifle to make it automatic. So he has done some simple things to stop these guns becoming even more dangerous. He has told the NRA, so the National Rifle Association, who fight for gun rights, that no one will lay a finger on your firearms, so that basically he wants to keep gun rights more or less as they are. They also have a very different position, of course, on climate change. Biden has started a bill where lots of money was invested into clean energy and climate initiatives that basically aim to keep CO2 production down. He has set new goals for vehicles, so cars and so forth. And but he has also taken action that where that more oil and gas can be produced for the market at home so that prices are not too high. But there is a clear focus on trying to reduce CO2 emissions. Trump, on the other hand, basically denies climate change. He says he does not really accept that climate change is man-made. He doesn't trust the science behind it. He has often said these words, drill, baby, drill, so drill for oil or gas. So basically he wants to really raise domestic energy production as much as possible to bring down the prices for this kind of energy, so for gas prices, for electricity prices. That was my video on Biden and Trump. I hope this helped you a little bit to get an orientation. What do these people stand for? On my channel there are a number of videos about the Abitur. Maybe you want to watch the video on the American Dream next, because it's closely related, of course, to this video here. All the best, see you soon, and goodbye.
English with Mr. B.